Well, good afternoon. In the first place, I want to thank the University of Comahue. We felt very welcome here since the very first day in the pre-small talks. Local organization was great. Of course, thanks to FAST for having this great conference year after year since a long time. Well, my name is Carlos Ferro. I will talk about .NET interoperability in Smalltalk. These are completely different words, but they can have some conversation. This is my current place of work. I am working in Petrovier by Auserna through a series of mergers and acquisitions, but never mind. All that I will show is using the technology of Smalltalk, but I think because it's completely written in Smalltalk that it could be easily ported to any other dialect. Well, it has been a long time since I given my last talk in a conference, so I am a bit afraid that I have forgot how this goes. So, in order to make the public confused and dizzy, and they don't realize that I'm making one mistake after the other, I will do the talk backwards. So this will seem like a bit of a deconstruction, because it's like when you roll a movie in review mode, that it seems that the things that were built along the action now are deconstructing themselves. In order to do that, I will start by the end, which is the successful demo.
And then the unsuccessful.
Good idea. I will arrive. Well, these are the changes to load for the demo. This code is not usually in our working image because it's just for fun. Actually, it's not even in any project. I will open a little window. This is like a chat client, but to chat with a robot. Well, anyone has anything of interest to ask
What time is it?
a small robot?
What are you wearing?
It's silly, but it's funny in some way. Anyone else wants to?
Where are you located?
Oh, okay. I don't think it is aware.
Oh, conversation.
Well, this can go on, and it's kind of funny, but it's not the purpose of this. So this was a small chatbot, a very primitive one. In fact, these things are used more and more to run automatically some business, to take delivery requests, to answer on help desk systems, and so on. But this is just a small experiment made a long time ago by this guy. And I took it here because it's basically a C# DLL. It's a C# assembly, with a very simple packaging. It's controlled through a series of AML files, which is a schema of XML adapted to produce this kind of conversations with some variance, randomness, and things like that. It was very popular like 5 years ago, I think. Well, this is the point where, since this is a Smalltalk conference, I start to proudly show my Smalltalk code and the brilliant design behind this. But as I have said, this is otherwise. Here we have almost no Smalltalk code. Actually, I loaded the changes before the start, and they are very few. Where is the code? It's in the C# library. So I am no more than a happy user of a library programmed by another people. But yes, we have some classes. I can show you. This is like the number of classes we have. The pane has as its model, let's say, a chatbot, an instance of the chatbot. We have the user model, because this chat thing has someone talking to the robot, and that is the virtual user. And we have two RTF texts, which are the streams of the conversation and the history. And of course, in other world, we have the bot assembly running in the CLR, in the runtime environment of C#. So let's see a bit how this is real, and I am not lying. Well, let me retrieve the pane. Here. Well, I can inspect this is one of the rich edit controls. The parent is the bot chat pane, and in effect it has actually the bot, which is an instance of this funny class. The user, which also has this prefix AIML bot, and the log, which is an RTF, and the phrase, which is the current dialogue here. Let's see the bot, which should be the most interesting class of this. And here we have just 3 messages. These 2 are for instantiation and configuration from files of the conversation and the settings. And this is the one which actually makes the conversation roll. If I look at the senders, it has well, it has one test, and it has this send clicked, which is the button on the pane. Well, let's see then what happens if I delete this method just for fun and just because it's called with an underscore, which is ugly. I can browse this, and now in the send clicked, I have this in red because it's not implemented, but anyway, I can compile it. This method was never in the class, actually. And now I will try to continue my conversation. Yes, it continues. I made an interesting observation, and the other interesting observation will be that here, after a refresh, I have now the method to answer this chat from message, which was automatically generated again. More than that, I could, in this instance, well, the instance has not a lot of state. It is only a wrapper of this iDispatch, which handles the real communication with the object in the C# space. But I can have some introspection. And see what is the protocol of this guy. Asking to its type. Well, it has a constructor. It has some event to log. Field info, property info. Well, it has some properties. We could see what is there in one of them. For instance, let's say path. Let's try this locally. As the method chat underscore reappeared after I deleted, I think that the same trick will produce a new method here and invoke it. And yes, it returned me another C# object, which is in this case an instance of system globalization culture info, a class that I didn't have before, but it appeared right now. And it's collocated in its space below a com automation. Well, I think this is right enough. Back to the presentation. Well, I have shown here briefly some characteristics of the use we are doing of these C# objects. We have dynamic class and method generation. We have access to the type information. We can see the interface that the object provides using the type objects. And we have automatic marshalling of the types. We have sent strings through the chat method, and we have get this local type and get a system global something object from C#. So it's it's nice and it's very easy to use and discover how things work there, over there. Now, another turn of the tile, and let's see how is it done. Behind this we have work mostly done by Jan Brani, this guy that you have seen in the video yesterday, before devoting to the RISC-V. he was working with this CLR thing, and he provided us with the possibility to use this iDispatch through COM to interact with objects inside the CLR. Sorry. The most interesting thing they have is actually the iDispatch. But we have built a hierarchy of CLR objects that are objects living outside Smalltalk and inside the common runtime for .NET, which inherits from COM automation objects. The automation part is this funny thing of dynamic class and method generation. And this is all organized into a CLR application which has some abstractions to dialogue with the runtime environment using app domains, which is like a partition in the runtime for a group of objects, and assemblies, which are roughly equivalent to libraries in .NET. Well, you can note that this is not our only COM application. We have also, and use heavily, an Excel application using COM. Well, this is a small diagram of the relation between the application, the assemblies it has loaded, and the app domain, and two parts of the runtime. And well, this is a completely different topic, but the binder is a thing that we had to add in order to use another property of the types and the marshalling that simplifies some dynamic invocations. Well, another important part of this is the COM support that Leandro Caniglia provided us some years before. This support goes through a series of abstractions that are more and more concrete, following the COM objects hierarchy. First of all, we have, and this is not COM, we have an external handle that is but a memory address in external memory. It can point to anything, but it's supposed to be the handle of an external object. Then we have the interface client, which is like a super abstraction of something that has only an interface that we can use through this external handle. Then the first really COM things, that is this unknown client. It is the most basic possible COM interface, and it has only 3 messages implemented. I will show it in a moment. Below we have something more funny for us, which is the iDispatch client that includes the possibility of dynamic invocation of messages on these external objects. And finally, below all of that, we have this underscore object, which means the objects in C# in this case. Let me show this here, if I can. Yes, this is an object client. No, not this one, this one. Well, under the object client, we have several other COM clients that are needed for other parts of the communication with the CLR to work. But above it, we have, as I have said, the iDispatch, IUnknown interface, and external handle. As I have said, the external handle is just inherits from object, and it's an external reference. Interface clients include some things oriented to COM, like the COM error and the edge result, which is something invented by COM to disguise the results. Below we have the IUnknown. It has the three methods that I have mentioned, which are the basis of COM, which are query interface to get another interface for the object, addref, which handles the reference count, and release to finalize an object. And below, iDispatch, finally. This has the beautiful call invoke, which allow all the other magics to work. Going back to the presentation. This COM support was written by Leandro basically from scratch, just reading a book about it and, and implementing everything he understood about the topics.
Not true, 8 minutes.
Oh, fine. I will have to add a filler then. I was saying this was completely written from scratch because we had inherited a primitive COM support from a previous Smalltalk, and it was not good, so he decided to start again. And it worked very, very well. We use it for some things in the Windows operating system. Smalltalk is almost exclusively used in Windows. So there you have COM for many Microsoft libraries and products. We have used it for drag and drop, for file dialogues, progress dialogues, Tom, which is a package to manage rich text in a format like the RTF, but from Microsoft. And that allowed us to show beautiful mathematical expressions in our editors. And, well, the start point for all of this is that in PetroVR, the COM support was always used heavily with Excel to produce the reports, starting programmatically the Excel and driving the workbook from the application. I can show you, let's say, a class of this. So these things are like our motivation to derive all the COM support and make it to work properly, because the reports were written like this, and this sends the things to Excel. So it goes on and on. Finally, this. We have an abstraction like a stream that then writes the values to Excel. But that's not the interesting part of this. This is the starting point. That is where I end.
The first question is just an assumption to ask you the second question. These .NET objects you create are allocated dynamically and garbage collected when no longer needed by .NET, right?
Yes, so they are garbage collected by the CLR runtime once I finalize them in the Smalltalk side.
Yeah, that was the second question. You need to explicitly finalize them.
Yes.
So you use weak references from B with a finalizer, or?
No,
or
not really. In this case, I have a hard reference to the robot in the pane, and once I close the pane, nobody knows more the robot, and he is disposed like any other object.
When you close the pane, you send the finalization message.
The object explicitly says in the initialization that it requires finalization. That was set in the root of the hierarchy in CLR object. All these objects require finalization. So when they are garbage collected, they are sent a message to finalize, and that disposes.
So you can have many references to the external object and no need to take care of them. It just works.
No need. It's automatic finalization.
Great, thanks.
I think that this is also an assumption, but you didn't have to modify the VM to do this. Just do regular FFA calls, and that's it.
Yes, the FFI part is on the COM support, not on the .NET part. The COM support has actually, COM objects have an indirect pointer to a virtual table of the functions, and we use plain FFI to invoke those functions. But not, we didn't have to touch anything in the virtual machine.
Any other question?
That's why I think that it is completely portable to other dialects, because we didn't do anything special beyond FFI.
Any other question? Okay, thank you, Carlos.